It can be easy to feel overwhelmed by politics. At a time when many of us want to grasp what's going on, it's getting harder to do so. How to Think About Politics by my friend and mentor Peter Allen is an amazing resource for anyone who wants to think about politics in a more principled way. The book is structured around 5 key themes that shape politics, and I've been speaking to Peter about his thoughts on each of those themes to give you a taste of what the book's about. The first theme is power. In the chapter on power, Peter makes the point that in democracies we're accustomed to a two-part story in which elections confer power both on the elected and on the electorate.
If you think about politicians, for example, the idea is that you elect politicians and that's where the power comes from. And then through that same mechanism that you give them that power, elections, you can hold them accountable for what they do with that power. For example, in June 2020, in the centre of Bristol, a group of protesters who were part of the Black Lives Matter movement pulled down the statue of Edward Colston, who was a slaver. Afterwards, Keir Starmer, who was at the time the leader of the opposition Labour Party, said that he agreed with the statue coming down, but he said that they should have pursued local democratic means, i.e., petitioning the people who had got elected, had access to power legitimately in his eyes. They hadn't gone and got elected, they hadn't done the thing where you're meant to tap that kind of single well of power. Instead, they'd taken power into their own hands.
But the chapter then points out that there are other forms of power that structure our politics in less obvious ways, and you can see that again in the example that Peter gives.
And it turned out afterwards that for quite a number of years in Bristol, different community groups had been petitioning people in local positions of political power. They had tried to pursue other ways of actually not just removing the statue, but altering it, for example. So putting a plaque underneath the statue that explained the fact that he was involved in the slave trade in a significant way. It came to light through local journalism that he had been stymied by a local interest group who had exerted influence on the democratic decision-making process. So the question this raises is, if you have tried to use the sort of legitimate routes of power to get something changed in your local community, can it actually be legitimate to then work outside those existing kind of formal structures of power?
These groups who were trying to remove the statue were less powerful in the other ways that you talk about in the chapter.
Based on the photographs of it, it looked like people who were younger, people who were from ethnic minorities, and from these kinds of things, you can infer that they're probably people who lacked a lot of the kinds of other forms of capital that you could kind of cash in political terms. The sort of structures of the way that power is formally meant to work disproportionately kind of left these people on the outside.
Follow me for more lessons from how to think about politics over the next couple of weeks. And if you find this interesting, make sure you go and check out this amazing book.